It seems like there is a major shift happening in the world for Assyrians in general. Let's name them. George Janko, Vincent Oshana, Patrick Bet-David, Inanna Sarkis, Braven Davood, Neenib Youkana. Let's go. Name the list. They're all there, and they're spread out all across the world. I was reading a book the other day, debriefing the president of Saddam Hussein, and one of the people that they mentioned in the book, and it was an FBI debriefer who interrogated Saddam, was an Assyrian man. George Pirro. So every single time I open a book and I read about it and I discover a new person, an Assyrian was involved some way, shape, or form across the world in a major, major landscape.
Yeah.
Right? Patrick seems like he's tapped into the Assyrian culture very well. He's bringing on 2 new young men who are Assyrian. He had a panel the other day, which was, in my opinion, and, you know, if you look at the numbers right now, the biggest Assyrian panel to ever air on YouTube. Over 1 million views, Marmadi Emmanuel, Vincent Oshana, George Janko, and PBD himself. So it seems like Pat is making a play of some sort for Assyrians. Have you guys been debriefed in a way about a vision for Assyrians with Valuetainment? Yeah. Is there a plan being made? I know maybe you can't share too much, but if you can, I would love to hear it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, how I see it is like, okay, George Janko, Patrick Bet-David, who else is big? Like Inanna Sarkis. They're all like very big influences for Assyrians right now, and they could do a lot for sure. And then there's us, which is like the younger generation, like yourself, us. We're on the come up. We're still not at their level, nowhere near, but we're working on it. Yeah, so me and Braven have this vision where we always say we're going to do it. We're going to bring back Assyria. And right now I feel like me and Braven are the students, and we're learning off like PBD and everyone above us. So when the time comes where we get to become the teachers, we want to be a really good influence on like young Assyrian men. We want to, me and Braven, we always say this, and we're going to do it. We want to bring back Assyria. And I know that sounds crazy, and some people watching might just laugh at us, but we always say it. We're going to do it. And it's not going to be tomorrow. It's not going to be next year. It's going to take a couple of years. We're going to have to work as hard as we possibly can. You need influence. You need wealth for that. You need a lot of things. But one day, Braven and I will work on bringing back Assyria. And I truly believe that. And every time we say something, we do it. So I feel like this is one of those moments. So we'll see.
I want to bring you in, but real quick. The last time we spoke, someone who knows you back in LA, I won't say her name due to privacy reasons. She didn't give me the okay to say her name. So
Sure.
Called me up after our interview. And she said, I know Neenib and you were joking around saying Modesto is like the mini Assyria and you want to have your own village one day. But she said to me, look into this sovereign nation in Nevada. It's called the Republic of Malosia. I'll put it on screen. And what it is that a man, for a tourist attraction, bought sovereign land within the United States and declared a sovereign nation. He owns that nation within the United States. He did it as a tourist attraction, as a joke, kind of. But imagine if Assyrians pulled their money in. Mm-hmm. We, right now, can't work together to get a country. Not realistic, in my opinion. And as Mar Awa, His Holiness, so elegantly said, we are not at the level of maturity yet to have our own country at this point, which I fully agree with. Now, these are my words now. Imagine if we were to pull in our money and have our own sovereign nation within a safe borders of America, practice building up our country, working together again, getting closer, removing those old ties of villages and all of these things that we can weed out slowly over time. And then let's see how this experiment goes. And then let's focus on getting a country. So it's not impossible, and it's not something that to laugh at, because I think we can do it. Some guy as a joke did it in Nevada. Why can't Assyrians do it legitimately?
Yeah.
And so, Braven, I want to get your opinion on it. What do you think it means first to be Assyrian? And then I want to dive into what you think the biggest issue Assyrians face today are. What does it mean to be Assyrian?
To be Braven. I'm just kidding. No, to be Assyrian, honestly, it's such a blessing. It's such a big thing. Before growing up, it was kind of frustrating, right? Like in school, I went to school. I grew up in Burbank, California, so there's not many Assyrians there. I went to Disney Elementary was elementary school I went to, and then after I went to like Luther Burbank Middle School. There was no Assyrians in any of those. Yeah, there were some Armenians. maybe some of them knew what Assyrians were, but not entirely. You'd be surprised. It was kind of like I was very frustrated. Like, oh, I have to explain to everybody, give them a lesson, like what are Assyrians, where we come from, and I was just like, I had to be Assyrian, you know. But as I got older, like hitting high school, college, and I got more involved with the churches and more involved with other Assyrians. I fell in love with our traditions, with our food, just where we come from, how old we are. Like, we just had our Assyrian New Year. Like, it's such a blessing, and I'm so happy to be Assyrian, to be able to speak, Neo-Aramaic, which is what we touched on previously, that Jesus spoke that language, and we're the first civilization to adopt Christianity. We have so many inventions. It's such a blessing, and I'm honored to be Assyrian, and that's why we kind of do this as well, to put ourselves out there, to just bring more awareness to us. And I think some struggles that we face today is that a lot of Assyrians are afraid of who they are. Just what I mentioned earlier, like as a kid, like it's just like tiring. Okay, whatever. Like, I'm just Irani, because I was born in Iran, right? Like, it's just easier to say, or I'm American, I'm born American, just to save you that conversation with others. But I think that's this very big problem. And then what we'll do is we'll marry non-Assyrians. Okay, like I see a lot of Assyrians, even some influencer Assyrians, just in general, a lot of Assyrians will marry non-Assyrians.
The majority of them are.
Yeah, and our language is dying, so our numbers are dropping, and we're trying to do the exact opposite of that. We're trying to bring Assyria back, and I think that's one of the biggest issues we face, is because we're not accepting who we are, and we're not marrying within ourselves, is going to be our downfall. And we're going to try to do everything we can to put us out there, and maybe encourage one person to marry another Assyrian, and just slowly go from there. Like he said, it's not going to happen over a year. It's going to happen, might take a decade, might take 2.
Well, for me, what it means to be Assyrian is to be a torchbearer for our people, right? I agree with you with everything you said, by the way. But to be a torchbearer for our ancient culture, our ethnicity, and who we are. For modern day Assyrians, we have a pressure and a responsibility on our shoulders that no other generation has ever faced before. Because it either ends with us completely, or it thrives with us. And so that's a lot of, weight on our shoulders that we have to bear in a land that wasn't ethnically our ancestors. And so, we're becoming quote unquote watered down in this land. I'm very grateful for America. I think this is the greatest country in the world. I don't ever want to leave America. And so it's a double-edged sword, right? Because this country gave us everything that we ever wanted. And at the same time, it's also in a way stripping us from our identity. So it's sad and a blessing the same way. You can't have it all. But to touch on what you said about Assyrians marrying non-Assyrians, I think the question you have to ask is, why is that happening? Let's look at the major influencers in the world. Listen, it says in the Bible, do not stir up love until it awakens itself. It's in the Song of Saul, where he writes about love. And so your heart chooses who you fall in love with. You don't really choose who you fall in love with. So it's a bit out of your control in a certain way. Is it ideal to fall in love with an Assyrian? Absolutely. You have a greater chance of falling in love with a non-Assyrian when you're in a land that's full of non-Assyrians. But also we have to ask the question, why is it that almost every single famous Assyrian person didn't marry an Assyrian? Name them. Even your boss, Patrick Bet-David, did not marry an Assyrian person. George Janko is engaged to a non-Assyrian. Inanna Sarkis married a white model, Calvin Klein model. Shout out. Non-Assyrian. Benil Dariush. Yeah. Go down the list. Why did that happen? Now, I'm not going to put words in their mouths. I'm not going to make assumptions for them on their behalf. But I will say, for me, we're not making it easy for each other to marry each other. We're making it very difficult for us to marry each other.
100%.
And I noticed that a lot of people just say, because there needs to be Christ first in a relationship. Okay, that's great. Yes, there needs to be Christ first in a relationship. But the majority of Assyrians, claim to be these super hardcore Christians, right? And so we claim to be the first Christians in the world. We argue with the Armenians about that. But let's just say Assyrians claim it for now, right? But then, the women will come out and say, well, it's more important for him to be a Christian person. Okay, well, we're all Christians. We all try to live that way to a certain extent. But what is it that you're doing and that I'm doing that we're not ending up together? There's a deeper rooted question here. It's easy to say the answer. It's like, oh yeah, you know, we need Jesus first in relationship. Yes, of course, it's obvious. Yes, you need Jesus first in relationship. But why are you not being attracted to Assyrians? Why are you not going towards them? Why are you repelled by them?
Yeah.
Is it because they dress funny? Is it because they don't have good jobs? Is it because she's out all the time? Is it because he's out all the time? What is it?
Yeah.
Let's ask these questions and let's figure it out, because the answer is obvious. Marry an Assyrian.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
But we're not doing it.
Yeah.
It's because we're scared that we're related to each other.
That could be it. That could be
No,
it for sure.
But to be honest, it's hard.
It's very hard.
It's bottom line is it's hard, and you have to have faith in Christ, and in His timing, He'll find you that Assyrian that you pray for. Sometimes we like to take things in our own path, and when we make the decision on our own life, I think maybe that's what happens, that we marry non-Assyrians. I'm not entirely sure. I can't answer that question. I'm not married, so it hasn't happened yet. But I think that, you know, deep down, I'm like, screw it. They're not Assyrian. Like, I'm gonna fall in love with this person, and it happens. You know, I've fallen in love with non-Assyrians, and it's one of the hardest things to just walk away from. At the end of the day, like you said, we don't choose who we fall in love with, but we do choose our actions, and love is just another feeling, right? We just have to walk away with it and just pray and have faith in God that His timing will lead us to the right person. And that will answer all of our prayers.
I don't want to like come off rude. Like, I love Assyrians with
You
all
have
my
to get
heart.
this right, or we won't be a nation.
Yeah. No, I love Assyrians so much. Like,
No pressure.
these are just things I notice. Like, just as an example, I have praying on our downfall. Who people tell me, people will talk. All we're doing is try to spread kindness and love the Lord as
Praying
much as
on
we
your
can.
downfall?
Praying on our downfall, just talking bad stuff, and these things happen. Not that we care, but I'm just saying, it's like, we're Assyrian. Why can't we just support each other, help each other out? There's many different examples. Like, let's say your dad, for example, wants to paint his house, and there's an Assyrian painter, and then some other Assyrian will come and he'll be like, no, don't do him, he's Assyrian, he's lazy, or this, that. It's like, why? Like, you should be supporting your Assyrians who are in whatever industry you're doing. Like, if you want to go to a doctor, go to an Assyrian doctor.
But here's the thing with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that, but you got to be so good at your trade that there's no other option than to go to where you're the obvious choice. Because a lot of times you'll hire an Assyrian, and then because they know you're Assyrian, you're going to be treated better. They're going to ask for a deal because you're like, come on, bro, we got blood.
Yeah.
They take advantage of you in a certain way.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I'm Assyrian, you're Assyrian. You should be paying full price to my business, and you should be supporting me the same way that a non-Assyrian would. That's the only way that we're going to survive. Stop asking for discounts. Stop doing a half-assed job on these jobs because you think I'm not going to say anything, because you're taking advantage of our relationship. Yeah. Actually, do what you're supposed to do. Be the best at it. I'll have no other choice than to go to you, and you being Assyrian is a plus.
Right.
Because I think we're screwing each other in that way.
100%.
Yeah.
You should pay them more, if anything, to support
Give
the
them an
business,
extra
to
tip.
come back
Yeah.
more.
I agree. I also think, like, at the end of the day, to solve all these problems is if everyone gave their life to Christ. If everyone was really as religious as they say, and we're Assyrian too, we should be the most religious people on the planet. We're first civilization to adapt Christianity. If we were all like true Christians, true warriors of God, I don't think we'd have any of these problems.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
Assyrians, there's like 10% of them who are non-churchgoers whatsoever.
Okay.
Those are called there's the Etanaya, and then there's the nationalists, the ones who don't care about religion whatsoever. In every single society, there are people who are secular 100%. In America, there's people who are atheists, and there's people who are not. There are people who are Muslims, there's people who are Jewish, there's people. So in every region of the world, in Africa, in Asia, there are all these different. So we're not special in this way of saying if we're all Christian, then all of our problems will be resolved, because realistically, that's not the way that the world works. There's always another sect of a person within any nation that doesn't believe in anything. And listen, I'm Christian before I'm Assyrian. I have this conversation all the time. The people who say that they're Assyrian before they're Christian, I think you're short-sighted, and I think that you're only thinking about this life, because God doesn't care what your ethnicity is in the afterlife.
True.
At the end of the day, you're a follower of Christ. Your body and your ethnicity stays on the ground, and your soul that lasts for the rest of eternity goes into heaven. That's the only thing that matters, right? So I'm a Christian before I'm Assyrian. But there are Assyrians, regardless, who say that they're Assyrian before that they're Christian. So you'll never get those in line with, if we all believe in Christ, then this, that, and the third will be solved. I agree that a lot of our issues will be solved with love, care, passion, and Jesus is in the center of it. But that's a theological answer to a physical problem where a lot of people won't get back into. So I think, all due respect,
Yeah.
because I love you and I respect your opinion, I'm not putting your opinion down.
No, of course.
But I'm saying this because I really want to see us progress.
Yeah.
And so I'm taking a hard stance saying, yes, Christ should be focal, but look at America, the greatest nation that ever existed. At some point, we could argue in the 1960s, we became secular and that was the decline of America. But at the same time, we've retained that super global power and we're still a secular nation where we give people the freedom to choose their religion and we didn't shove down Christianity down people's throats. That's the freedom. That's the slippery slope to freedom, right?
Yeah.
But America was established because people wanted religious freedom to practice Christianity the way that they wanted to. But now it's a secular nation. So I think we have to look at everything America did correctly, implement that, and then strip away everything America did bad and then implement that. And we're one step closer to a nation. What that is, that could be discussed in length with people who actually know more on the topic than I am right now. And also someone who is not running on 0 hours of sleep in the last 36 hours.
Yeah.
But I think this is a good start. And I think you both bring up very good points that definitely need to be addressed.
Even, I think if we had a leader too, if we had our own country, if there was a president of Assyria,
Who should that leader be?
PBD.
I would say Patrick Bet-David. Yeah. There's no one else who will fit the role perfectly. And if Patrick Bet-David was American, I'm pretty positive he would have been the president of the United
100%.
States easily. And yeah, it's pretty crazy. And soon he'll be most likely meeting
But
with.
does he want it? Would he ever want that?
I
To be
think so.
president of Assyria?
I think so, because he has so much money. Like, he could just leave and retire.
What
chill.
about his Armenian side, though? Would that ever be a point of conflict? Because I'm 12.5% Armenian, by the way.
Right. Okay.
So I get to say this.
Hi,
Yeah.
yes.
I don't know. He's never once picked a side on whether. he
No, I'm not
likes it.
saying he has to pick a side. But
Yeah.
I'm saying,
Would they be in conflict? I don't think so. I think Armenians would be happy if they saw Assyria come up. They have a country. Why? Maybe us one day will. So I don't know. If we ever did bring back Assyria, and we had to pick one leader, one president, Patrick Bet-David. Who else is gonna really do it? He's like the perfect role model too. It's not like he does drugs or anything like that. He always wants the best for the youth, and he just knows everything. He's very experienced with life, and he's gone through it all, and he started here from nothing. And yeah, I think he's the perfect person. Who else would you say?
I don't think it should be religious figures.
Mm-hmm.
So all of the Mars, I don't know, I'm just trying to categorize all of them together without naming them one by one. They should not be even considered, and I'll explain why. This was actually explained to me by a friend of mine, and I really, really adopted this idea, this way of thinking because of them. So they said, you want a religious figure who is ordained to be a holy man, to represent a church, to then go be the leader of a nation. Do you know what leaders of the nation have to do? The presidents of nations have to do? They have to order people to go die for them on their behalf. They have to order wars. They have to defend. That's bloodshed left and right. You want a religious figure to have blood on his hands when he was ordained to just teach the teachings of Christ, which was the complete opposite of that. So a lot of Assyrians say this patriarch or that bishop should be the leaders of our nation. I don't think that's right. I think that they should be words of wisdom in the ears of the person who would be the leader of the Syrian nation, because they have so much things that they could provide in terms of counsel. I don't think that they should be sitting there as a politician, and they would have to be subjected to lie and negotiate and deter from their main focus, which is to teach the words of Jesus Christ as best as possibly as they can. That's their main job. And so I think that's something Assyrians need to step away from. And Patrick Bet-David is an easy person to nominate as number one. But what I would say is we would have to go through a democratic republic version of our Assyrian. I would say take all of the good qualities of the American judicial system, the three branches of government, the way that we vote, and implement that into Assyria. Now strip away the corruption. What does that mean? Okay, very basically. Make sure that no politician is able to hold any types of wealth outside of what is being compensated to them directly from their position. Meaning they're not allowed to own stocks whatsoever. Make it so that they have term limits. Make it so that their spouses are not allowed to invest on their behalf. Make it so that that power is very limited to them. Their seat is limited, that they can't sit there forever, and that there's no way of making financial compensation and money, and then developing another system of crony capitalism. I think that if you dissect all the things that America did wrong, take them out, put in ways of making it so that they don't do that, then if the people elect Patrick Bet-David as the president through a fair democracy, there you go.
You sound like young Patrick Bet-David.
Can I nominate you?
Yeah.
I don't see. Here's the thing, though. I know there's like kind of like a half joke, but I don't think I would ever. I would never be able to be that type of person, for one reason. I would never ask someone to do something that I was not capable of doing. As the president of a free nation, you would have to ask people to die on your behalf. I am not willing to kill, so I would never ask anyone to kill for my nation. You can call me a coward, but I care about my soul in the next life more so than I do of 80 to 90 solid years that I might have, if I'm lucky, on earth.
Yeah.
So me as a leader at that height, I would gladly pull my hat from the race. I wouldn't even consider it.
Is it worth sacrificing your country?
That's a fantastic question. That goes back to the religious leaders as the person who's in charge of the nation, because we had a patriarch, Mar Binyamin, who during World War I, the Ottomans and the Turks captured his brother. And they said, surrender the Assyrians or we kill your brother. And he said, I always get goosebumps when I say this, my brother is one, but my nation is many.
Wow.
And he let his brother get sacrificed on behalf of his nation. I don't know if I would be able to even get close to making a decision as unselfish as that. And then he later shortly got assassinated by the Ottomans and the Turks in World War I. So these are the things that the president or the leader of these free nations have to go through. And if you think you can handle it, you think you're comfortable with having blood on your hands, and you think you can answer to God in the afterlife with that, by all means, put your name in the race. But I don't think I'll ever throw my hat in the race.
Yeah, it's a tough one, because then it goes back to putting God first. And what would God want? He wouldn't want you to kill anyone. So yeah. I agree with you. Like, if I was to ever, I always think about that. If I was ever to go to war, I would just die as a man and not kill anyone, I feel like, if I had to. Obviously, I'd try to stay alive, but I don't think I would want to do that. I don't think God would like that. But it's very difficult. It's so much different factors going into, like, this topic. And it's so hard to pick like one right way. Mm-hmm. So you pick one thing, and then there's a bunch of negatives that come with it. So I don't know. It's a very weird topic, and everyone knows this. And to bring back Assyria, it's so difficult, man. I don't know. Some people say we have to go to war to get our country back. I think we don't have to do that. I think there's other ways, but it'll take time.
I have a few recommendations I like to make to Pat. So when I get my chance to talk to him, I'm gonna tell him these things. But gentlemen, this was a very fruitful conversation. I feel like we got to know you guys more intimately, deeper. Your mission here is very noble, and I applaud you guys. Again, thank you for bringing me and my team out to you guys in Florida. Again, in Patrick Bet-David's Cigar Lounge. It's an absolute honor, and I wish you guys nothing but success, the best, and I hope that one day we could have another conversation like this soon.
Thank you, brother. We're happy to have you here.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Neenib.
Thank you.
Thank you.